St. Michael's services, week by week, reaches out to some 60 countries. And from time to time, people come to St. Michael's as a result of those contacts. Recently, a man came here and he took away with him my book on the new faith. And he wrote me a letter, having read the book, and I'd like to read that letter to you now. Many people write to me. Some write critical of what we do here, and I accept that. Others write commendatory letters, and of course this is one of them, and hence I read it to you. So he says, thank you again for the book, Discover a New Faith. I'm sending my thoughts about the book. First, it was wonderful to see in print many of the understandings which I have reached in my own spiritual journey. Being 90 next year, I have walked a long and sometimes difficult spiritual road seeking understanding and growth. A Baptist in my youth, serving in the Navy in World War II under the influence of an Anglican chaplain, embracing Presbyterianism, and then part of the Uniting Church, I have grown to understand and accept so much of what you have outlined in your book. I'm so grateful to have a faith enunciated, which I can intellectually accept. Rabbi Zacharias has said, what I believe in my heart must make sense in my mind. Your book makes sense. Even at an advanced age, I am still seeking spiritual growth, and your book has contributed to this in a very meaningful way. However, I wonder if the new faith will produce the emotional inspiration that the old faith had to inspire the wonderful works of art, music, and literature that we enjoy so much. Let's hope so. But thank you again for the book, and particularly for those insights within it. Good. And that comes from Lionel Arnold from Collaroy in New South Wales. So I thank him for it, for the letter. We all have them. Some are plainly distressing experiences. Others are shocking. Shocking in their size, in their strength, and in the suffering that comes in the aftermath. Some find their traumas shatter their view of a meaningful world, shatter their view of what they thought religion was about, shatter their sense of inner strength and any sense of spiritual coherence. In the treatment world, the emphasis has been for too long, perhaps, on the disorders, the post-traumatic problems and disorders. But in the last 30 years, the treatment world has been discovering what humanity has known for generation after generation. That positive changes can follow a terrible trauma. From people diagnosed with cancer, survivors of natural disasters, horrific war injuries, through the loss of jobs, loss of someone special in life, or loss of all your life savings. People have come to find, even after all of those events, and any one of them, have come to find a new life is possible, a new way to live, a new way to grow again, grow in their coping strengths, grow in their relationships, grow in their spiritual awareness and depth. A man came in to see me. He was 48 years of age. He says, my life is a shattered glass. Not a crack in the glass. You can't put shattered glass back together again. That's how it is. My life, shattered glass. So what will we do? Will we look for a new sheet of glass? He said, no, there's a great hole in my life and nothing will fill it. You can't get over a thing like this. So if we keep speaking in these terms, that will mean you'll live for the rest of your life, perhaps another 48 years, with a great hole in your life. He says, I'm not going anywhere. I can't get this out of my mind. The memory of it keeps playing over and over in my mind. I just wish I could tell you what it feels like. It's like a physical pain, an ache in my chest. Sometimes it is as if a great truckload of bricks has been emptied on me and it's suffocating me, holds me there. I can't get on with anything, and I'm not going anywhere. Sometimes I feel depressed. Sometimes I feel intensely angry. Sometimes there is this heavy tiredness. I wish I could sleep and go on sleeping. So I'm going to leave him there for just a moment. I'll come back. And I'm going to jump over to a totally different image. One line from that Old Testament reading I read to you today, the story of Noah. So stay with me. It says, after 40 days, after a lifetime, it seemed like ages, Noah opened the trapdoor of the ark. And then, let me take a second line, and then he released a bird to see whether the flood had begun to subside. Now notice a few things about that story. Notice it had been locked up there for weeks in all that mess of his inner enclosed world of that ark. Take it literally or metaphorically. Notice he opened the trapdoor which he himself had made, and then light and fresh air came in at last. He released the bird to test whether it was time to begin a different phase of life. The story in itself is unbelievable. How do they feed those animals? How do they keep the peace? How did they survive in that enclosed space for all that time, however long it was? So would you leave all that over there and see the story in the images it provides? And here it is, of our own experience. We get locked up in our own inner world. We lock ourselves up as a way of responding to the floods of life, the traumas of life. We forget that we have a trapdoor. Maybe we made it, it's there, we put it there ourselves. We have a trapdoor to get out. Eventually we might open that door, and light and fresh air might give us a look at life in a different way. The bird he released was to be a symbol of a release that we all seek from our traumas and the pain that goes with them. He tests to see if they can now contemplate a new future. Notice that the story as it stands does not record any feelings. No feelings of fear, anxiety, relief, or even pleasure. Only after it is all over, when it was time to celebrate, Noah gets terribly drunk. But the story then went on to have God say, in effect, see, I put a rainbow in the sky. You and future generations will see that rainbow after every storm. And you will be fascinated by it, by the colors. And they will remind you that life can be richly colored as you realize your storm is over. Now, my task today, I hope, is to bring you some helpful words about post-traumatic growth. and an intelligent religion. After our distressing experiences, can there be growth? After life's traumas, can we re-enter life and become better, more resilient, bigger people? After the dreadful has happened, can we ever be happy again? Many of you know life delivers its flood of loss and upheaval, its anxiety and confusion and all the aftermath. And we can become so overwhelmed, we can hardly bear to live in the world. And it's understandable that we seek refuge, often persuaded that there can be no afterwards. Life becomes enclosed in the ark of our own construction. And we often need someone to come to help us find our release. So the man who said his life was shattered glass, notice he was telling me something dreadful had happened. And when things are so totally shattered, we don't expect things to be put together again. Certainly not in the same way. Notice he was talking about the size of the event, the memory of the event. I can't get this thing out of my mind, he said. The paralyzing effect of it. I'm not going anywhere. I can't get on with anything. I'm stuck with it. The feeling is like a heavy pain, a truckload of bricks suffocating me, and I can't see anything good in the future. So would you note the shattering event and its size? The meaning he puts upon it. You can't get over a thing like this. That's what he said. There is a huge hole and nothing will fill it. That's the meaning he puts on it. And then there's the memory of the event. And then the feeling loaded on the event. And the feeling loaded on the memory. And then we find that paralyzing spread of the experience. And the trapdoor to the future is closed. I think my scheme of F's that I've mentioned to you before might help here to at least put things in some kind of order. You remember I have 25 F's, but just 4 or 5 of them I'll recap on today. So something has happened, number 1, and you feel deeply distressed and traumatized. There's the feeling. That's F1. There's a huge feeling there. Number 2, you'll notice it affected his functioning. It affects our functioning. F2. Number 3, you lose your proper focus in yourself and on your capabilities. F3. F4, you lose your fantasy of a future. The blinds are drawn. There is no future. The trapdoor is closed. And number 5, you can't find something or someone to open the trapdoor and give you that sense of release. Now you might say, release for what? Release into a new phase of life. Release not to be a dysfunctional for the next 40 years, but released into a surprising experience. To be part of the full flow, another F, the full flow of life, and to grow. That is called post-traumatic growth. We shorten it to PTG. We all search for it. We all need it. At some point of our life, we will need to find that PTG. It is central to the new faith. Too many people get locked in the ark of their outmoded or wrong beliefs. Here are some of them. Some experiences, you never get over them. There's a belief that we need to challenge. How is it that some people get over them and you don't? But that's the belief we have. I can never forget what's happened. I can never forget what's happened. I am so angry at the injustice of it all. It has taken years of my life. there is nothing to live for anymore. I will never forgive them for what they did. Or there are variants of that. I'll never forgive myself, or I'll never forgive God. That's the end of religion for all for me. Finish. I heard a radio interview just this last week, I think it was, of the father of that little kid in England who was led away by two older boys, who killed him on the railway line. You know the story. The father in the interview kept saying, you never get over a thing like this. It was so shocking. No, nothing will help. They asked, have you ever tried to get some help? No, nothing will help. So the trapdoor was closed. The memory, he said, the loss, the feelings, the damage, we're all damaged. Is there any repair? No, there's no repair. That's not possible. Nothing can change the event that has occurred. That's true. Whether it be the death of a significant person, a little kid or an older person, whether it is a horrible, unjust, outrageous event, that trauma has occurred. That's the reality. In the post-trauma zone, we have the reality. It continues. That's the reality. And if we're not careful, we're going to lock ourselves away in our various arcs. Or we can open the trapdoor and ask, is there life after trauma? Is it a living death? Or is there a life-enhancing life? And what will religion do? You know that old faith religion speaks of the bodily resurrection of Jesus after his crucifixion. The new faith says, our traumas are like crucifixions. Crucifixions of mind, body, and spirit, with pains and aches, sickness in the body. But resurrections are possible. Through release from the past, restored hope in the present, and a resolve to live in the future. I'm going to change it from the F's to the G's, 4 G's. G being for growth. Living in the present and in the future with a G for generosity, with a G for grace, and with a G for gratitude. Old faith has God punishing us for the mosquito disease that's infecting the north of the Philippines at the moment. No, it's not affecting the people in England. They were affected by the mad cow disease. No, it is not affecting people elsewhere because they've been affected by the floods in America or the tornadoes, wherever they are. God is doing it. That's old religion, and it is wrong. It is not so much it is unintelligent, it is just wrong. And we need to correct it. How will we grow? Will we get over it? How will we get over it? So we work to focus and refocus our life on what is now our life goal. We work to ensure a positive fantasy of the future. That's the energy of faith in the future. We find something or someone to put us into the flow of new forms of growth. The biggest drawbacks to growth can be those images that we construct in our own mind, the memories that we keep circulating in our mind, the emotional loading that you put on those images and the memories, and the reluctance to find someone or something or some experience that will open the trapdoor and let new light and new fresh air in again. How do we get over it? How does growth take place? We know that we can reduce the distressing negative reactions. And there's some simple ways to do it as well as some very complex ways. But you can move away from the trauma area. You can find good models, good role models. You can resolve not to be damaged by even the worst that has happened. We know that the event can be loaded with negative emotions. Fear, anger, shame, guilt, resentment, all of those. But we also know that those negative emotions can be unloaded. The meaning that we put on the event or on the trauma can be loaded with so many negative emotions, but they can be unloaded. The memory that we have on the event can be loaded and unloaded. Growth can happen if we are helped by selected people, selected relationships, supportive environments, stimulating experiences. Growth needs plenty of nurture and encouragement and resolve. Growth occurs by rebuilding the damaged self, recovering your self-worth, repairing the fantasy of the future, refocusing your life away from the retrospectives onto the prospectives, the future. Growth occurs as you study what resilience can mean, as you develop compassion for other people, as you commit yourself to good causes, as you help to make the world a better place, as you give to charity in memory of people who have been lost. All those things we can do. The new faith has Jesus pointing to the energies that will soothe and heal. Has Jesus pointing to the flow of life into the future. Has Jesus pointing to the constant discovery of a new being, our new being, the new being. And the epistle to the Romans that we read said that we might set our feet on a new path in life. Today we read the story of Jesus on the Emmaus Road, helping people see the meaning of things after he was no longer with them. They would break bread and celebrate the good presence in the world. It would be a strong statement of gratitude for all that had released them from the past. It would be a strong statement of optimism and faith that there are many pathways for new growth into a different future. An intelligent religion is needed to help us gather together, people gathering together to learn how to be caring, helpful, resilient communities. An intelligent religion is needed to bring out the best in each one of us, to develop strengths we didn't know we had before, to provide inspirational refocusing of the human spirit, to nurture a sense of holding together when things seem to be falling apart, to give a strengthening connection and belonging through that meaningful drama of the sacraments and the rituals, to help us keep focus on the dignity and value of every human being. An intelligent religion keeps alive the reality of Scripture as we recite those passages that you've heard many times. Yes, I tell you, he said, you will weep and you will mourn, but your pain will give way to a time of joy. And the psalm also said, we need to throw off the blanket of our suffering and put on the lighter clothes of a buoyant spirit. Would you please stand?